Evening 49ers update. Fair warning, this might be a little bit of a rant as we talk about the actual Brock Purdy situation. But the good news is that it'll be fun. And we've got over 30 minutes because we're about to take a driverless ride through San Francisco. Why don't we begin? We're going to head all the way down to Glen Park. Oh my God, we're backing up. I did not expect this to start in reverse. Holy crap. Oh, right into the empty spot. This is amazing. Dolphin Club, by the way, right in front of me. Car making a nice maneuver. This is how the 49ers have to maneuver through their financial situation this offseason. We've got a runner coming through. Car, I think, knows that the runner is coming. It's going to take 42 minutes to cross town today. What a maneuver. My goodness. I mean, we're like running a parallel parking-like maneuver in the middle of the street. What a start to all this. More reverse action. All right, now we can go forward. We are on our way. Good news, the trip has begun. We're ready to talk about Brock Purdy and the 49ers. Do you guys want to see one more turn? I think we're going to turn onto Hyde Street. We'll see some cable cars. But, you know, there was another report today that said, according to multiple sources, Brock Purdy's contract is going to be between 50 and 55 million and potentially more. And it's like, bro, you just covered the full range. That's not a report. You said 50 to 55 or potentially more. Yeah, no, I don't want to say a bad word. No S, like it starts with an S. I don't want the algorithm to kill me here. Of course it's going to be worth 50 million or more. You can't just give me the full range and then say that you have sources in a report. And you don't say multiple sources said and then put quotation mark as if every single one of those sources said the same exact thing. It was ridiculous. Anyway, Irish coffee, found it here, the Buena Vista Cafe, good spot. There's a cable car. Back to the Buena Vista. Sorry, you might be getting car sick as I'm swinging back and forth, but there's the cable car coming down Hyde Street. Irish coffee actually started at the Shannon Airport in Ireland. I once had a plane that was leaking fuel crossing the Atlantic Ocean. It was Air Transat. I'm never going to take them again. I was flying from Montreal to Prague. And the first airport that we hit over land following the Atlantic Ocean was Shannon. And so we had to land in Shannon, Ireland instead of Prague. And they said, guys, we've been leaking fuel for the last several hours. And I was like, great, never flying you guys again. But long story short is I got to go see the Cliffs of Moher, which are right near the Shannon Airport. I drove like 45 minutes to go see them. And second part of that story is that's literally the airport where Stanton Delaplane, who was a San Francisco Chronicle travel writer, went and asked the bartender to make him a drink that would allow him to work and also get drunk. And the bartender said, well, I can mix you some, some whiskey, some, I think, Bailey's Irish Cream, is that in there too? I think it is, and some coffee, and he called it an Irish coffee. And then so Stanton Delaplane came back to San Francisco and opened up the place that I just showed you, the Buena Vista Cafe, and I think he actually invited over the bartender from the Shannon Airport who helped make that drink a reality. And they called it an Irish coffee, and they served it at the Buena Vista, which we just passed. Now look at these ridiculous cars blocking the intersection. You guys see that? That's a green light. This guy, he's lucky that we're not a cable car just barreling into him. That is absurd behavior. You don't do that. You don't block the intersection. And now here we are waiting in the driverless car. The light is turning yellow. We did not make it through. I mean, are you kidding me? This is why robots are taking over driving, because robots don't drive that poorly. Anyway, the actual truth of the Brock Purdy scenario, and this is from the fans' perspective, because I talked to a lot of fans. People walk up to me at the Dolphin Club on the sidewalk in Fresno the other day. We talked to James Cummings, who used to play running back for Fresno State. And the question is, when is Brock Purdy's deal going to get done? The fans just want a deal done. It's these media types who are just tripping over themselves to try to get a report out. Oh my God, it's going to be 50, it's going to be 55, it's going to be a little bit more. The fans just want a deal done. They want this drama over. And look at this. Second straight cycle of lights that we've got somebody blocking us. Unbelievable. It's green again, and this guy, oh, we don't care. We absolutely don't care. Yeah, screw that guy. We have just decided to go around him. Don't you love this? This is why robots are taking over the world, because they actually know what they're doing while driving the car. Unlike that guy who was blocking the intersection. Nice little view at the Golden Gate Bridge. That's a new park, by the way. And we are making our way up Hyde. We're going to be passing Restaurant Row and Lombard Street here in a little bit. So the fans just want this done. And these bogus reports of 50 million, 55 million, 60 million, just really get my goat. It's just, it's ridiculous, because you might notice as we pass Lombard Street that it's a really good way to just play with your emotions. One week it's 45 million. The next week it's 55 million. Then somebody starts talking about 65 million. And then, they reverse back to 50 million. And it's like, whatever number it wasn't last week is the number of the report that comes out this week, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just, you can't do 2 straight weeks of 55 million rumors for Brock Purdy. So this time we've got to have 50 million. And nobody ever bases their contractual discussions on any type of contractual science. It's just like throwing numbers out and then saying a source told me this. What I try to do, and why I really appreciate you guys for watching the channel, is I try to come out with actual financial reasoning. I try to make contract projections. I look at more than the average per year. I look at, what have signing bonuses in the past been? What is the percentage of the cap that these quarterback contracts have taken up? How can we project that to a $279.2 million cap? Because that's what the salary cap is for this Brock Purdy deal. I mean, I at least further discussion intelligent way. Because I think that, fans want either substantive talk or no talk at all. They don't want just empty blather, which is what we're getting. One of my favorite Italian places, by the way, is Amarena. We're passing it right there. Very, very good. You guys are going to see one of my former San Francisco apartments right now. We're about to cross Vallejo Street. We're on Larkin Street. I used to live at Larkin and Vallejo. This was the block. The address, because I could tell you the address. Another Waymo. There's another driverless car in front of us, because I don't live there anymore. 2036 Larkin. This gray building right here. That's where I was back in the day. That was, actually, I was already covering the 49ers. That was from 2000, I want to say 16 to 2019. 2017 to 2019. Yeah. That was the start of my tenure covering the 49ers, 17 to 19. Back when, for the Super Bowl season, when they went and lost to the Chiefs in Super Bowl 54, I'd already moved to Hayes Valley. Maybe we'll be lucky enough to drive through Hayes Valley on this trip. So, yes, I do take some sense of pride and not just throwing numbers out there and saying that multiple sources say. It's like, who are the multiple sources? Are they just other people talking on Twitter, other journalists? Because that's not really going to bring you any closer to the truth in this situation. I take some pride in actually trying to talk about contract details and where the market is heading, taking a more economist's look at things. And if we want to summarize all that I've been talking about regarding Brock Purdy for the past several months, it is that the salary cap is higher now than it ever has been. The salary cap has risen 24.1%. Oh my God, look, Lombardi Sports, my namesake. This is a great ride. We're seeing a lot of stuff on our way through San Francisco. But the salary cap has risen to $279.2 million. That obviously is the highest that it's ever been. It's 24.1% higher than it was 2 years ago. The reason I bring that up is that somebody like Joe Burrow, who's at $55 million per year, signed his contract 2 years ago. So when he signed his contract, the cap was much, much lower than it is now. It took up 24.5% of the cap back then. You've got other contracts that are at $55 million, but they were signed later when the cap was higher than it was 2 years ago. So the main point is that there's a range. The range is between 21 and 25%. Anytime an A-list quarterback has signed a contract here in recent years, it's taken up anywhere between 21 or 20.8% and 24.5% of the salary cap. Burrow is on the high end. Somebody like Jared Goff is on the low end at 20.8%. I think it's fair to surmise that the House of Prime Rib, established in 1949, like the 49ers, that might be the best prime rib in the U.S. I think that it is fair to surmise that Brock Purdy is going to fit on that scale, right? 21 to 25%. If he's on the lower end, 20.8%, just like Jared Goff, the deal will probably be $58 million a year. If he's on the upper end, like Joe Burrow, it'd be $68 million a year. It's going to be really hard to see it getting to that point, but you see the upper 50s just scientifically. If you're looking at cap inflation, you see the upper 50s as very possible. Now, I say that, but then I zoom out, and I noticed the Josh Allen deal, which was negotiated under different circumstances. He has the most total guaranteed money. He's at $55 million per year. I obviously see that. And when I zoom out, I say average per year is not the be-all, end-all to determine the strength of a contract. In fact, it's just a way for people to parade around and try to get clicks, try to get views, and try to get credibility that they otherwise wouldn't have and probably shouldn't have just by talking about this kind of stuff. Because contracts are determined by guarantees, and contracts from a team perspective are determined by structure. How well are you going to be able to surf the wave of the rising salary cap? Did you guys know that when I wrote my Brock Purdy contract projection, just to show people how this might work, did you guys know that the 49ers can theoretically sign Brock Purdy to a deal worth $61 million annually that only has a $15 million salary cap hit in 2025? That is what we are referring to when we say that structure is imperative in these deals. Because the salary cap, as I said, it rose 24% over 2 years. It's going to continue rising. It's tied to NFL revenues. Do you guys see what the NFL is doing with the expansion into Europe, the expansion into South America? I'm sure that we're going to have an Australia game. The Rams, I think, are to be hosting one next year. The Taylor Swift effect is a real thing. You've heard Margot talking about it on shows. I mean, this NFL revenue spike is a real thing, and it's going to cause the cap to continue to spike. So if you can structure the deal appropriately, then you could fit these escalating costs, and it's one of the reasons why the costs have been escalating in the first place. Then there's the whole 49ers specific financial situation, which is the cash spend situation. It doesn't have this firm tie to the salary cap, but it does have a related tie to the cap. But the cash spend situation for San Francisco also dictates that they want to pay the quarterback big money. They want to make him one of their financial centerpieces, or the financial centerpiece. They have cut guys who are not financial centerpieces. They're looking at A-list pillars at every single position, of course, including quarterback, with cost-efficient deals elsewhere, the sustainable way to build the 49ers roster. So everything kind of translates and indicates that, this Brock Purdy deal is going to be an A-list quarterback deal, and an A-list quarterback deal is going to have to be paid at the market rate. Jed York said it himself in Orlando at the Ritz-Carlton last year during the owners' meetings, which I'm about to head to in a few days. This year it's at the Breakers in West Palm Beach. Jed York said the market is the market regardless of whether I like it or not. Talking about quarterback contracts. The market's going to be the market for Brock Purdy, and regardless of what number they end up at, my very overarching point, the one that I brought through a few minutes ago at the start of this ride, moving south through San Francisco, was that the fans just want a deal done. The fans just want a deal done. It's not their money, but it is their entertainment. People love Brock Purdy. I think the people that denigrate Brock Purdy are in the very firm minority. People want the 49ers to be able to operate as a football team outside of Purdy's contract, so they want a good deal that is amenable to the 49ers cap situation and to Brock Purdy's financial security. They want a deal that checks all the boxes, done, period. And all these reports, and I have to, reports, all this bogus clout chasing online, all this stuff that isn't scientific at all, It doesn't matter to people. They just want the deal done. So don't let people jerk you around with moving target reporting. 50 million, 55 million, all this, all that. Just know that the 49ers and Brock Purdy are negotiating to try to get a deal done that's best for both sides. And once they feel that they've reached that compromise, the structure's in place, then both sides are going to sign on the dotted line and we'll all be able to move on with our lives. And I think that it's going to be a lot of fun to actually analyze the deal once it is finished. Eric Nelson said, "You nailed it. Just get it done." Snowman asks me, how many years should the 49ers give him? How many years is Brock Purdy willing to take? Because, you know, a 10-year deal like Patrick Mahomes' deal is extremely team-friendly. Because it's not like there are guarantees. Got to turn on the light here as it gets a little bit darker. It's not like Patrick Mahomes' deal is filled with, you know, years and years of guarantees. Like when he signed it, there was, what, 2 years, maybe 3 with guarantees in it? A whole lot of team control, though, in that contract for the Kansas City Chiefs. So Patrick Mahomes was willing to stake himself to Kansas City for the long term, and they can rework that deal year after year. He's got his leverage because he's Patrick Mahomes, and quarterback can always threaten to sit out. But it still was a big leap of faith from Patrick Mahomes to sign away 10 years to the Kansas City Chiefs instead of going to, instead of going to free agency or having the threat of free agency earlier. Looking at that, that is San Francisco City Hall. Mr. Lurie, big 49ers fan. Daniel Lurie is the mayor of San Francisco. That's where his office is. If you guys want to see Daniel Lurie on the show at some point, maybe we could make that happen. Look, San Francisco Ballet, there's people on the balcony getting ready for their show. There's the Symphony Hall. Doesn't look like anything's going on in the Symphony Hall today as we roll through the Civic Center area. Texas Niner says he needs to get some House of Prime Rib. That was 5 minutes ago, man. We're already way further down Van Ness Avenue. Everybody hit the like button. Everybody subscribe. We're getting a nice little tour of San Francisco today. You know, I like doing these at golden hour. Today, the golden hour is not so golden. Yesterday it was. We made our way up Twin Peaks. Today, we're just doing a north to south drive, and we're going to end up in the Glen Park neighborhood of San Francisco. So today, Mike, who else do we talk about today? If Mike is on right now, maybe Mike can send me some reminders of all that we went through. But the Brock Purdy stuff seems to be front and center because people are so desperate to get their clicks and their views on this 49ers stuff that it's just like this moving target reporting is so exhausting. And it's like, please bring some meat and potatoes to the table. I'm a meat and potatoes eater. Sorry to those of you who are vegetarians, but you know, I like my reporting and my information the way that I like my food, which is hearty. I like it to be hearty. I like it to be substantive. Oh, Trey Lance, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, that's a Canadian football team, has, I don't know how it works in the CFL, but they have like put a negotiating rights claim on Trey Lance. Just in case Trey decides to play in the CFL, I guess it might be with Saskatchewan. And this is something that we've talked about for a while, Trey Lance's lack of experience. I think that it would be very smart of Trey Lance to go play in Canada because he would actually be able to start and he'd actually be able to get game reps. And the biggest problem for Trey Lance is the lack of game reps. And he's not getting them in the NFL because he's not good enough for that. But maybe he could get better with game reps. And he could potentially get that in Canada. That'd be the next highest league to be able to get reps in. And I don't even think their season fully overlaps with the NFL season. I think it actually would be very, very smart for Trey Lance to head to Canada. Now, Mike says, well, are we sure Trey would even start in Canada? No, I'm not sure. But I know that he's not going to start in America. I know he's not going to start for an actual NFL team. And, let's go back and kind of handle this Trey Lance situation with facts, because a lot of people don't like facts these days. And I don't care if you don't like facts, you can tune out of this channel. But if you want what actually happened, if you want objectivity without the emotion, you can listen now. So the 49ers drafted Trey Lance number 3 overall in 2020. was obviously the COVID year, 2021, but it was coming off of the COVID year where they didn't get to do much in-person scouting. And what they did know is that Trey Lance was extremely raw. Kyle Shanahan thought that he could mold Trey Lance like moldable clay. He thought he could mold him into his perfect quarterback. They were looking at a guy that, they thought could run like John Elway or Steve Young, and also had, the cannon and the size at 6'4", to 220, 230 plus to be just this throwing specimen. But Kyle Shanahan thought that he could program Trey Lance, being the raw prospect that he was, into his quarterback of the future. Well, the problem is obviously the lack of experience. And, he had only played a season. He had only started a season at an FCS school, lower level competition, North Dakota State. So the 49ers entered the 2021 season after Trey Lance had been drafted, having kept Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster because they knew that Lance wouldn't be ready to handle the show himself. And they, one of the most fascinating things I had ever seen was the 2021 training camp. Not because Lance and Garoppolo were competing, but because Kyle Shanahan was preparing Lance and Garoppolo to split quarterback duties. He wanted to ease Trey Lance into the mix because he realized this guy was so raw that he wasn't going to be able to handle a full load at quarterback. So keep Jimmy, the good veteran, on the team, and then start mixing Trey in situationally. Kyle Shanahan even had crazy quotes that offseason talking about, yeah, well, you put in different running backs for different situations. You put in different receivers for different situations. I don't see why it should be different at the quarterback position. So when we watch some of those practices late in the 2021 training camp, and then when we watched the game against the Raiders, that was preseason week 3, it was certifiably wild. Who here remembers that? It was crazy. I mean, you'd have Lance come in for a play, and then Jimmy Garoppolo would run back in. Lance comes in for 2 plays, Garoppolo for 3. They drove down the whole field and scored a touchdown against the Raiders. And what was really wild is that Jimmy Garoppolo scored on a designed run touchdown against the Raiders in that game, because that's what Oakland, it was still Oakland at the time. Oh, was it Las Vegas? No, it was Las Vegas at the time already. Yeah, it was the Las Vegas Raiders. They were not expecting the Jimmy Garoppolo package to include a quarterback run, but it did. And I mean, Kyle Shanahan was able to put them into a blender with the 2 quarterback package. Bill Walsh did something really similar back in 1979 when the 49ers drafted Joe Montana in the 3rd round. They had a veteran named Steve DeBerg, experienced veteran, but Walsh wanted Montana to eventually take over. But Montana wasn't ready to take over full time, so he spoon-fed him by introducing package play that alternated Joe Montana with Steve DeBerg. So the 49ers were doing the same thing with Trey Lance. That's how they were going to solve this lack of experience. And the media, most of the media, not us, this is when we started our YouTube channel, most of the media got that completely wrong, just like they're getting this Brock Purdy contract stuff completely wrong. They thought that this was some kind of competition and that Lance might win quarterback 1. That was never the case in 2021. It was supposed to be a dual system, a dual QB system, where Lance was getting situational play. But the big event that people always undersell is that Trey Lance broke his finger in that preseason game against the Raiders. His finger hit off the helmet of a Raiders pass rusher. Who was it in 2000? Was it Maurice Hurst? I think they had Hurst on the team, the Niners did. Was it Cleveland Farrell? I forgot who it was, but it was a broken finger for Trey Lance, finger off the helmet, and it screwed up his ability to throw, and it screwed up the throwing development because Lance was raw. Lance needed time. Lance needed reps. And because he wasn't able to throw properly after breaking his finger, it completely caused Kyle Shanahan to scrap his 2 QB plan. Publicly, Kyle Shanahan said, yeah, it messed me up as a play caller. I didn't want to do that. But the real reason that it messed him up as a play caller was because one of the quarterbacks couldn't throw because he had a broken finger. Of course it messed him up as a play caller. So the plan that the 49ers set into motion late in that 2021 camp going into that game against the Raiders was scuttled. Lance was unable to throw properly. He wasn't fully healthy and hadn't fully figured out his finger and the throwing ability until early 2022. By that point, Brock Purdy was already on the 49ers team. They did give Lance the start to that season, but it was pouring in Chicago, and then he broke his ankle against the Seattle Seahawks. We all know the rest of the story. Garoppolo played well until he too got hurt. Brock Purdy took over, and then Sam Darnold came in and beat out Trey Lance in 2023. So the reps that Trey Lance needed, that he couldn't get because of the broken finger in 2021 that derailed the 49ers plan, the reps that he needed never came. The Cowboys also couldn't give Trey Lance the reps that he needed as he sat behind Dak Prescott. I don't think there is a single NFL team that's going to be able to give Trey Lance the reps that he needs because he's still so damn raw. So I think that Canadian football is actually the only potential ticket for Trey Lance to get what he needs most, and that is playing experience. Anyway, we fast forward to now. Brock Purdy's the 49ers quarterback. He's a whole lot better than Trey Lance. He's a whole lot more polished than Trey Lance. The draft is less than a month away. I don't think the 49ers will ever, under this regime at least, take such a wild swing. I understand the upside that they thought they saw in Trey Lance. I understand why they took the big swing, even if you might disagree with it, but I don't think they're ever going to do that again because of the way that it blew up in their face. Now, the situation was salvaged by Mr. Purdy, pick number 262. It's one of the greatest ironies of our time, right? The fact that pick number 3 was so raw, so inexperienced, and such a bad quarterback due to that raw inexperience, and the fact that 262, the very last pick, was such a polished QB who was, very close to winning the MVP award in just his second season. It's crazy that's the way that it worked out. It's crazy that Purdy didn't bail Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch out, but now it's time for the 49ers to pay up. They will pay up, and that's where we are in the modern day. Here's where we are right now. We're approaching Bernal Heights. We've made it through the mission. Bernal Heights is one of the best views of San Francisco. You could walk up those streets. They're steep, but it's awesome. It feels a little bit like Europe. Really narrow, steep streets, and you could go all the way to the top of the hill, go back and see the city. We are now truly at dusk. I think sunset is hitting right around right now, but there is a storm in San Francisco, so we cannot see the sun, a lot of clouds. And those of you who are just joining, we're in a driverless car, which is about to make a nice right turn on red. This car has done some good stuff over the course of this drive. I mean, do you see all those people blocking the intersection? That was patently ridiculous. But we decided to take evasive action and get around them. All right, I'm ready for some questions. We're 7 minutes away from Glen Park, which I also think is one of the hidden gems of San Francisco. Brian Smith says the 49ers need it younger. They were about 29 years old on average last year. They were the oldest team in the NFL. The average age of the NFL player is 26 and a half years old. So yes, the 49ers absolutely need to get younger. They already have gotten younger. No, I'm not going to be counting a long snapper in my averages. John Weeks is 39 years old, but obviously long snapper is a very isolated and specialized position. At other spots, the 49ers definitely have gotten younger, and once you add draftees into the mix, well, then that's definitely going to bring the average down even further because draftees are going to be only about, 22, 23 years old, maybe even some 21-year-old draftees. Who are the 49ers going to pick at number 11? What do you want? Do you want an offensive lineman? Do you want a D lineman? Do you want a running back? Just kidding. Maybe not. Do you want a receiver? Do you want a tight end? Do you want Tyler Warren? Who do you guys want in that first round? Jeremy asks, are the 49ers done shoring up their special teams personnel? I would say no. I think they're going to add some kicking competition for Jake Moody. And I also think that if you're going to make this team as a rookie, and the 49ers are counting on a lot of rookies making this team, you better be able to contribute on special teams. So that's going to be a definite factor here as the 49ers look at the rest of the roster and filling this out through the NFL draft. People want an edge. Oh, a linebacker in the first round. That would have to be Jihad Campbell. The 49ers stay at number 11. They're picking a linebacker. It'd have to be Jihad Campbell, who arguably could be the best player in this whole draft. And people might not like it if the 49ers pick him because he's coming off the shoulder surgery, but that may even allow him to fall to number 11. I mean, this guy's a really good player. It's like Fred Warner, except a little bit extra physically. He's tall, just like Warner, near 6'3", but he runs faster than Warner. Now, Warner's 10-yard and 20-yard splits were about the same as Campbell's, but, I mean, we're looking at legit 4.4, 4.5 speed from Jahad Campbell. Now, there's nobody who is Patrick Willis. Patrick Willis was an alien, right? 4.3, 40. Somebody tried to make a comparison. I forgot who it was online. There was some Patrick Willis comp, and it's like, please, dude, stop it. I mean, Patrick Willis is a once-in-a-50-year kind of physical talent. I wish that people would respect Patrick Willis's name a little bit more than trying to compare, with the top linebacker in the draft to him every single season. We're about to pass Mitchell's Ice Cream, old school San Francisco ice cream shop. I was really excited to take you guys on this new route today. We're charting new territory, and I knew that I had to beat sunset, and that's what we're doing right now. Sunset might have already happened, but we still have a little bit of daylight. It's that beautiful like dusk time right now. It's actually quite nice. And, we got windshield wipers going, but it's not really raining yet. Mitchell's Ice Cream is going to be coming up here. It is a legendary spot in San Francisco. The avocado ice cream is what it's all about. Here we are. I'm going to open up the window so you guys look at the line outside of Mitchell's. There it is. I know there's a lot of cars in the way, but that's Mitchell's. This is the Waymo. We're 4 minutes away from Glen Park. Then I may backtrack. I may take BART. I want a burrito, though. Because I'm only in San Francisco for a couple days. I'll be back. I've got to go to West Palm Beach, and I've got to go to Montana. Joe Montana. We'll do a Joe Montana video from Montana. That'll be fun. Just to realize there's a name overlap there. Where I'm going in Montana is right where Eddie DeBartolo lives, up in Whitefish, Montana. Really excited about that. Shout out to my guy, Mark Major. He may make a cameo on the show while we're there. And I think they've had a good March as far as snow goes in Montana. So we might be doing some skiing when we're there. All right, so now we are exiting the Mission. You can see the train tracks in the middle of the road. This is San Jose Avenue, not to be confused with San Jose, the city. And in 2 minutes, we're going to be at our destination in Glen Park. If you're lucky, we'll see a Muni train coming in here down the median. I mean, this is the closest that these Waymos are allowed to be on the freeway, which is pretty neat. I think we covered everything here. We went on the little Brock Purdy rant at the start. It's not about Purdy. It's about the reporting here. It's gotten so ridiculous. Hopefully you guys learned something from the contract discussions that we do have, because we don't sit here speculating. We actually talk about hard and fast facts. And if you do appreciate that, oh my God, this guy on his scooter, crazy. Driverless car, picking up some speed. I mean, we're going near 50 miles an hour there. Got to brake fast. And we're going to be coming into Glen Park now. This is why I call this a little hidden gem of San Francisco. We'll be coming in the back. And you'll see it's like this little setup. Just dip. Oh, we're going to go this way. Oh, wow. Okay. Sometimes we make some really bold decisions with Casper's driving. I'm going to ask Casper for his opinion. Who should the 49ers draft in the first round? Casper thinks the 49ers, this is Casper right here. Casper says, only I can understand Casper, the 49ers should draft Armand Membu in the first round to help protect Brock Purdy, but Casper's not sure if Armand Membu is going to be available at pick number 11. In the case that Membu is not available, Casper says that the 49ers should think about trading back. Not too far back, but a little back, so somebody might want number 11 for various reasons. Maybe the 49ers can really stock up on top 100 draft picks if they do that. Casper notes that there are as many good defensive tackles in this NFL draft as there are driverless cars in San Francisco. All right, this is Glen Park. I'll step out of the car to give you guys a nice look at Glen Park because we've reached where we're going. So give me a second because I got to get my backpack from the back seat. Always want to show you guys the coolest little gems of San Francisco. And this way you could also see the car. All right, we'll send Casper off on his way. We'll see you tomorrow, Casper, or see you whenever. Or see your friend, the other ghost. He should leave at any second. Hopefully he doesn't go into reverse. I don't know if I should trust him back here. Remember how this ride started? Okay, good. He didn't back up into me. That's a win. Casper leaves. We continue our walk. This spot right here, it's closed right now in Glen Park, but it is an awesome crepe spot. It's called Higher Grounds Coffee House. It's obviously evening now, so Higher Grounds Coffee House is not the spot to be, but you guys should check it out at some point. And then the main street here in Glen Park is called Diamond. And this is kind of the intersection. Fun stuff, right? Really fun stuff. All right, guys. Wanted to give you the neighborhood tour.